Good evening, BoobTube. I say evening with a question mark because I don't know if I'm actually going to post this tonight or tomorrow morning or whatever, because my life is a disaster. Anyways, moving on. This is a big post today because there's a certain something I'm going to mention, so I'm going to be talking really fast, so feel free to rewind as much as you want if you care. First up, first thing we've done recently, watched this old Godzilla movie from 1998. I remember I bought the VHS tape of this when it was first released back when I was in university because I loved this movie so much. It got destroyed by critics. It starred Matthew Broderick and a bunch of other people. A couple of Simpsons alum, actually, Harry Shearer and Hank Azaria, who I love. And I don't know why they didn't like it. The effects were, for the time, were pretty good, and the story I thought was pretty cool, and everything about it I just loved. The action, the stars involved, it was just fantastic. Anyways, the premise is that in the South Pacific somewhere, a Japanese fishing vessel is mysteriously attacked by something, and it's obvious that this is a large creature of some kind that is very unnatural. After that little opening sequence, the scene shifts to Chernobyl, where a nuclear scientist named Nick, played by Matthew Broderick, is studying the effects of that radiation from the accident on the growth of earthworms in the area, which is very profound. They're getting a lot bigger. Soon he's kind of not captured, but taken away without a choice by some U.S. Sort of military team, and flown to Panama, where they say, you've got a new project to work on. And he's like, what project? I don't see what I'm supposed to be studying. And then he looks down and realizes that what he's supposed to be studying is the giant footprint he's standing inside of. So after he does some studying there, the scene shifts to Jamaica, where the next incident is, and then they fly onwards to New York, and it's apparent that this creature is making its way towards mainland USA. And as they go along and start to figure things out, there's many theories thrown out by the other scientists on the team and the military. They think it's some sort of lost dinosaur or whatever, and Nick has a different idea. After studying in where his area expertise is, he thinks that this is a creature that was also born of radiation in the South Pacific from all the nuclear testing that was going on in that area over the years, and it's some normal lizard animal that has been grossly mutated by the radiation and is now making its way towards the US, and he believes it is eventually he figures out it's for breeding purposes. It's not going halfway around the world for no reason. Nobody believes him about that theory, though, so the military are just focusing on just destroying this one large creature. Find out they're grossly outgunned after their first encounter, and then when Nick's old girlfriend from college, Audrey, gets involved, she's an upcoming reporter who needs a big break, and she decides to use Nick behind his back with some of the sensitive information and broadcast it. He gets kicked off the team because of that. He hates Audrey because of it, but soon a French guy named Philippe takes Nick away and says, you're going to work with us now. And he's for the French Secret Service, and on behalf of his country, who were involved with a lot of that testing, feel responsible, and they want to stop this creature. So it's kind of Nick and Philippe and his team of agents going to Madison Square Garden, where they have found this creature has laid its eggs, and they need to destroy them all and get the message out to the world about everything that's happening, and hopefully end the threat. So, and then of course Audrey and her cameraman, Animal, or Killer Animal, I think it's Animal, who's Hank Azaria in the movie, end up with them too, and they have this big last stand to save the world and stuff. So, like I said, I loved it. I don't know what the problem was with it, but I highly recommend it as a watch if you haven't seen it, just to see what that step in the Godzilla chain was. Next up, an animated movie called Batman vs. Robin. Dollarama for $4. No brainer. This animated movie starts out, it's a dark one with a little bit of bad language and a lot of violence, so it's kind of one of those like cool ones. I love when animation gets all serious. Robin has snuck out of Wayne Manor with the Batmobile. He's heading to this small little town called Ichabod, where he's tracking down a guy named Anton Schott, I think his name was, also known as the Doll Maker. So Robin infiltrates this old toy factory, I believe it is, and he confronts the doll maker, who has been stealing children and then kind of mutating them into, or I don't know, somehow turning them into like these little killers with doll-like features. And so Robin goes after him. Batman shows up late to the party. He subdues all Dollmaker's little creations while Robin pursues Dollmaker out into the wilderness. He subdues him, and he's really close to killing him, but he holds back. He remembers Batman's message about justice, not vengeance. But then some weird dude in a owl-themed metallic suit shows up and rips the guy's heart right out of his body. And then before taking off, and then Batman comes out and he goes, "Robin, what the hell did you do?" And he's like, "I didn't kill him." And then Batman's like, "I believe you." And he finds this owl feather at the scene. So when they get back to the manor, Batman the next night he's having dinner with his girlfriend Sam or Sarah, I can't remember, and he introduces her to Robin, who is actually Damian Wayne, who is Batman or Bruce Wayne and Talia al Ghul's son, so that means he's the grandson of Ra's al Ghul, which is bizarre. And then that night Batman goes out to investigate leads on this mysterious owl feather, and leaves Robin in the care of Nightwing. And of course Robin's a dick to Nightwing and eventually escapes. While Bruce is tracking down this lead on the feather, he has these flashbacks from his dad telling him stories before he was killed many, many years ago about this court of owls, wealthy old men in Gotham who will do anything to steer Gotham towards their vision of what they want the city to be. And so that gets him thinking about this owl feather and stuff. And before he knows it, there's other guys in these owl suits that attack him, and it's all he can do to keep up with the three of them before suddenly they all melt into piles of biological goo. And so Batman barely escapes and gets back to the manor. And while Robin is out, he is confronted by the original owl armored guy named Talon, and he kind of admits to this court of owls thing, and that they are not. That he wants Robin to join them, and says, "You don't have to hold back with us. You can, if you see a criminal doing something, you can kill him. You can do whatever you want. We just want this. You can do any means necessary to keep this city safe and clean." So he offers Robin this position, and then eventually they confront Batman as well. So then it's basically Robin has this decision to make, and Batman, his kind of well-being hangs in the balance of what his son's going to do. So they come at odds, and it all kind of plays out in the end in this big battle that goes down to the Batcave and ravages it down there. And then Batman, of course, eventually has to confront the leader of the Court of Owls and this Talon character, and there's a couple surprises along the way. So pretty cool movie. Like I said, I love when animation turns dark and scary and serious. I always find it a hoot. Next up, the fifth and final book of the Five Kingdoms series by Brandon Mull, called Time Jumpers. Brandon Mull has become one of my favorite authors after like J.K. Rowling and whoever's writing the current Star Wars Expanded Universe book. In this last story, Cole Randolph has just returned from the Echolands, where he battled with Romaro, the Terriver who's set to ruin the Five Kingdoms and destroy them all. He knows he's going to escape for real in the near future, and but when he gets back from the Echolands, he finds that his body has been captured by Owendel, along with two of Mira's sisters, the princesses Honor and Destiny, I believe it is. They eventually get back to the castle. Owendel interviews them, but he doesn't grasp the depth of Cole's powers. Cole can, simply by touching somebody, he can boost their powers or change their powers, undo any shape crafting. So Owendel makes the mistake of touching Cole, and Cole lets him have it. They escape captivity. Owendel has to escape the castle with his forces, and afterwards Cole is brought before the king, Stafford Pemberton, who started all this mess many years ago when he, under Owendel's bad advice, stole the powers from his five daughters to keep himself super powerful, and that's what started this whole adventure. So Stafford just wants to make amends for what he did. He wants his daughters and his wife to be safe, so he gives Cole his royal seal, say, "You can go wherever you want, do whatever you want, you got all my funds, you got all my okays, just get this sorted out." So that's good. So then the next step is he goes and talks to Mira's mom, the Queen Harmony, and she is willing to help Cole in any capacity as well. So her plan is to team him up with a young Wayminder named Violet. And with Cole's ability to charge other people's powers, that means he can give Violet power anytime she needs, and she can open as many portals as she wants to any area of the Five Kingdoms, so they can just basically come and go and do whatever they want as quickly as possible. So once that's settled, they have their list of what to do. First, they have to go rescue their friends, Mira, Jace, and Joe. In the process, Joe is injured. Some enforcers come down on them, so they have to escape back to the castle. Then after that, they have to go recruit their friend Twitch to the cause, go visit Jenna, and tell her that if Cole's brother Hunter stops by, to let him know to stay there, and Cole will come find him for the final battle with Romaro. They go inform Mira's eldest sister Elegance about the end of the Five Kingdoms that's soon to be coming, and then the last and most important thing is they're after one of the grand shapers of the Five Kingdoms, a guy named Lorenzo Debray, who they don't even know if is still alive, but they have a hint as to where he might be. So they go to seek him out, because the best chance they have of defeating this Terriver is with the aid of a Grand Shaper. And if they find him and he knows of more Grand Shapers, hopefully even more of them to aid their cause. So there's a lot of what ifs and buts, I guess. And so it's all this kind of time jumping adventure at the end that plays out in a very cool kind of way. And just ends the series on a perfect kind of note. So, like I said, Brendan Mull, he does the Fablehaven series, Beyonders, Candy Shop War. I love young fiction, like the 9 to 12. I know it's kind of weird, but I just find they're so imaginative and better than normal adult fiction, unless it's Star Wars, or Alien, or Marvel. Yeah, they're good books. So yeah, great series, great author. I highly recommend. Next up, Splatoon 2. We beat it. We beat the story mode, but we're still playing the multiplayer kind of online mode. But the story of Splatoon 2 is very similar to the first one. It's been 2 years since the events of Splatoon, and one half of the Squid sisters, Marie, has gone to visit her parents. When she gets back, she finds, the great Zapfish has been kidnapped again. And, the other half of the Squid sisters, my cousin Callie, is also missing. So she goes back into the whatever corpse it is and recruits you, called Agent 4, to go seek out who stole the Zapfish. They believe it was the Octarians again. So it's pretty much the same thing as the first game, just different levels and just as much fun. So you battle through that and you win, and game over. And then of course there's all the online modes, which they've added more variety in this game. The other thing they added, which is really cool, is another kind of single player mode. Not single player, another online mode, but it's like a story mode. It's kind of different. Instead of playing in 2 teams of 4 against each other, you play in 1 team of 4, and you go get training from this fish named Grizz. And he teaches you how to defeat these salmonoids monsters, fish monsters, that when you destroy the big ones, they leave behind these golden eggs, and he's after those because they're valuable. So he teaches you how to defeat these things and harvest these eggs. And then after you complete your training missions, then you do the online thing with your team of 3 teammates and complete these missions and gain rank and all that stuff, just like the other online modes. And it just keeps you going and going like the other ones do. So you're never truly done a Splatoon game if you have interest in it, because you can just keep on ranking up and buying new gear and stuff like that. So very cool game. Just as good as the first one, if not even better. So, okay, last thing. Friday night. Not opening night because it was Thursday night late, but we went to see Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker. And I am a huge Star Wars fan. If you could see my bookshelf just a little over that way, it's entirely Star Wars. I collect some of the comics. I've played all the video games. I watch all the cartoons and the TV shows. We've gotten into The Mandalorian, but not too much yet, but everything about Star Wars I love. I've devoted a lot of my adult life to learning as much as I can about all these stories and adventures. So this movie was awesome. People were already saying negative things about it before it was even seen yet, and that's what I hate about the internet. And I've dropped a few YouTubers that I used to follow from my feed because they're just so negative about everything, and they were of course 2 of the ones who were like, "Oh, the new Star Wars sucks." And it was just like, you know what? I'm tired of it. They hate Brie Larson for some reason. They hate Star Wars before even seeing it. And it's just, I'm done. I'm done with that shit. I'm done with all the negativity. If you don't want to, if you're going to go into it that way, you're going to hate it, you know? So just don't go see it and don't go pollute YouTube with your bad opinion. This movie, it starts off with the scroll, and it lets you know that the voice of Palpatine has been broadcast throughout the galaxy, and so people are like, what? So Kylo Ren is like, oh, I have to find this guy, right? So he's seeking out these wayfinders that will point the way towards the planet that Palpatine is actually on, called Exegol. It's a Sith planet. At the same time as he's going to do that, Rey is continuing her Jedi training under Leia Organa Solo, I guess. And she gets caught up in the Palpatine thing as well. And while she is still with Leia training, she feels the pull to do something more about what's going on. So when Poe, Finn, and Chewie, and BB-8, of course, get back from a mission to go get a message from a First Order spy, they get back and confirm that, oh yes, this Palpatine thing is real. He's around and he's planning something, and we don't have much time before his plan is unleashed. So then Rey's like, we gotta go. We gotta do something. In the meantime, Kylo Ren finally finds Exegol and finds the Emperor, and it's this weird kind of like emaciated Emperor with these like zombies. I got like the one Bill Cosby eye on both eyes. Like he looks like kind of he's still the Emperor, but he's kind of zombie like, and he's not full powered, it seems. And he reveals that he has been hiding this enormous fleet of Star Destroyers, all which have a super weapon on it that can destroy a planet. And there's hordes, you'll see in the trailers, there's just hordes and hordes of them in the sky. And before Ren can have this power, though, he needs to do one thing: kill Rey. So, interesting, right? So then, when Poe and those guys get back and Rey's like, we got to do something, they find out that... oh god, what's next? I made notes because there's so much stuff going on that I couldn't even like I'm still processing it 2 days later. Yes, so then Rey, in Luke's notes, because she kept all Luke's stuff from the weird planet that he was marooned on, she goes, oh, a Sith Wayfinder. She's like, I know where one of those might be. So then this points them towards the planet, what was it? Pisana. So her and Rey, or sorry, Poe and Finn and BB-8 and Chewie, they all go to this planet Pisana. And C-3PO. Sorry, BB-8 stays behind, I think, and C-3PO goes. Anyways, on Pisana, they're having a hard time locating something until they're found by somebody who ends up being Lando Calrissian. And when they ask about the Wayfinder, he's like, yeah, Luke and me looked for that, and there was nothing there. And he points them towards a tiny little ship that's been abandoned out in the desert that was some sort of assassin that was sent after Rey's parents or something like that, had abandoned. So they go check out the wreck of it, and they don't find anything until they get into the depths of the sandy desert, and they find this weird kind of long knife / sword thing that has these Sith inscriptions on it. C-3PO can translate, he knows what it says, but he can't pass this translation along because his programming prevents him from spewing Sith gibberish, right? Because it's evil. So, they're like, what do we do now? Let's check my notes. Oh, and all this time, Rey's when she sees the ship and stuff, she starts having these flashbacks about her parents and her childhood, which is all very interesting. Oh yeah, and as they're escaping Pisana, Kylo Ren manages to track them down, and her and Rey have this confrontation in the desert, and Chewie gets captured in the process. And the transport that Chewie's on, which they think he's on, is flying up into the air, and so Rey's trying to pull it down with the Force, and Ren's trying to resist her. And suddenly she tries really hard to tug it down, and Sith lightning erupts from her fingers and destroys the transport. And she's like, I just killed Chewie. What the? She killed Chewie. So then that was a very big turn of events. I couldn't believe that Chewie was dead, so I kind of expected he wouldn't be, but at the time it was like, what? So then they depart, like hastily. They all get back on the ship and they depart, and they're all sad because they think Chewie's dead. And then Poe suggests they go to, yes, the planet Kijimi, where he thinks a little tiny being named Babu Frick, he was one of the best parts of the movie, can extract the message from C-3PO's memory and play it for them. But in doing so, they have to wipe 3PO's memory, which they go ahead with, and that actually becomes a really funny point through the rest of the movie when he thinks everything's brand new and it's his first adventure and stuff. And Babu Frick's this little tiny dude, and he has this really funny way of speaking. He's this little alien thing, and he's like, you thought Baby Yoda at the end of the first Mandalorian episode was cute and adorable and hilarious. This dude is like the new Baby Yoda. He's so funny. So while all this is going on, Rey senses that Chewie's still alive, and so Poe Poe, with the help of an old associate named Zori, who is actually played by Kerry Russell, which you couldn't tell because you only see like this much of her face in her helmet. And I thought that was kind of cool to see an actress like that you wouldn't expect in a Star Wars movie. And she looks super hot with the little bit that you could see. So she was a really intriguing character. I was kind of hoping they'd do more with her. Maybe she'll have a book or something written about her. But she helps them get up to the Star Destroyer and retrieve Chewie, as well as the Sith blade, which Ren had also captured. So they get away from the Star Destroyer. But as this is all happening, Ren and Rey, you know how they have that psychic link and they kind of appear in each other's space and they talk and stuff? He informs her, dun dun dun, that Rey is Palpatine's granddaughter. What the? Sith lightning, right? So that floors her, and she's like, what the hell? I'm a Palpatine, right? So then Palpatine sensed how powerful she was as a child, so then that's what her parents were doing, which they dumped her on Jakku. They're like, well, she'll be safe here in the middle of nowhere, just like Tatooine, right? And they took off and were killed by this assassin who abandoned his ship on Pisana or whatever, trying to get this information about Rey's whereabouts from them. So that was the whole backstory behind her. So they escape the Star Destroyer. They find out that General Hux is actually the First Order spy, and he gets executed when his plan doesn't go that well, but he helps them get off the ship. All he wanted was to get rid of Kylo Ren. He wasn't a Resistance sympathizer or anything. He just hates Kylo Ren, and he wanted him out of the way so he could do his thing with the First Order. So then Poe, or C-3PO's message that they decode points them towards this planet called Kef-Bir or whatever, which is in the Endor system, and there's actually wreckage of the second Death Star lodged in the ocean there with these massive waves and stuff. So Rey goes out to this Death Star wreckage and makes it to Emperor Palpatine's throne room, and in a doorway off to the side, which I want to watch Jedi now and see if that doorway actually looks like that. I'm sure they made it look like it, but it's just so cool now that you know that was in there, to go watch Jedi and go, oh, that's the door where the thing is. So Rey finds the Wayfinder in here, in that room, and then tries to leave, but Kylo Ren confronts her again. They have this massive battle. He destroys the Wayfinder and crushes Rey's hopes, and Leia, in one last bid to help the Resistance, distracts Kylo Ren, her son Ben, from whatever planet she's on at the time, the Resistance's base planet, and distracts him for enough time for Rey to run him through. And during that whole sequence, Kylo Ren kind of realizes that I've been a real dick. Darkseid's a dick. Rey, though, is able to heal Kylo Ren before leaving in his ship. She does him one mercy, because they do have some sort of a weird relationship going on. So she escapes in Kylo Ren's ship. She's upset because the Wayfinder's gone, and she doesn't know how to get to Exegol and confront the Emperor. So she goes to that weird planet that Luke was marooned on when he gave up on everything, and she burns Kylo Ren's TIE fighter. She gives up. She's like, no, I don't deserve anything. I'm gonna stay here like Luke did. But that's when the ghost of Luke Skywalker appears and talks some sense into her, and she goes, you have a wayfinder. And she's like, oh crap, Kylo Ren's got his in his ship, which I'm burning right now. So she goes and gets that wayfinder, and then immediately and then Luke brings his X-Wing up from the water, the one that he crash landed in, his X-Wing Red 5, and she blasts off in that to Exegol, and she transmits back to the First Order fleet, here's the way, follow me in. So she's got a head start. She makes it to Exegol. Poe and all the rest of the fleet come in after her. So while she goes to confront Emperor Palpatine, the fleet comes in, and because they're in this weird kind of maelstrom, the fleet, they have to follow directions of directions that come from a tower on fleet maneuvers. So the First Order fleet themselves have this plan to destroy this tower and throw all the ships off so they can't make it out of the system, and then they'll be easy pickings. They'll just target the big cannons underneath the ship, which will blow them all up, and that'll be that. But of course, it's the last battle of the movie. It's the last battle of this last trilogy, and so things aren't going to go as planned. So in the end, you have Rey and then Kylo Ren arriving afterwards, confronting Palpatine. He does get his powers back. He gets the yellow glowing eyes back, and it's fantastic. And it's just this big epic battle to end the movie, and then a little scene afterwards on Tatooine. And it's just, this movie was kind of everything I wanted it to be. It was some fierce battles, some awesome Jedi displays. Palpatine was back, and not just his voice, which is what the trailers got me so fired up to actually see the Emperor again, that I was hoping it wasn't just going to be his voice in some recordings of his, or some ghost Jedi Sith, meanderings. Like, it's actual physical Palpatine is back, and that made my day, because after Darth Vader, he's probably my favorite Star Wars character of the whole bunch. So, and then just to see this closure on the whole thing, and some secrets be revealed about what Rey's past was, what Snoke's purpose was. I'm glad to see that they had a little CGI sequence about Luke and Leia when they were younger, and about Luke training Leia to become a Jedi. So I'm glad that all the people that got friggin' worked up when Leia floated back to the ship in Last Jedi, and everybody's like, she can't do that, how can she do that? She's a fucking Jedi, she can do things. God, if you read all the books you would know all the different powers Jedi can have, instead of just going, that's impossible, right? That's a fucking Star Wars movie. There is no impossible. God. Anyways, I'm getting worked up. I hate critics. Movie critics. They get paid just to give their opinion. It doesn't mean they're right or they're wrong. It means they have an opinion like everybody else. Don't ever listen to movie critics. Oh, it's the worst thing you can do. So I thought it was the perfect way for this latest trilogy to go out. Of course, it's still wide open. The First Order's the First Order's not defeated or anything. Palpatine's fleet is defeated and he's gone, and Kylo Ren's dead, but there's still lots of evil out there. There's still lots of stuff you can do with all the big hero characters. So I know that's the end of this trilogy, but Disney's going to want to make as much money and keep this rolling as long as they can. So there's still going to be lots of one-off movies, which I'm expecting, but I don't know where they're going to go next with, if they plan on doing any more trilogies, and if they plan on doing them new, or to continue on with these characters or whatever. So I'm excited about the future, but now I'm just enjoying this last movie, which was pretty much unfolded just the way I wanted it to, and lots of humor too, which is pretty typical of a Star Wars movie these days. They throw in a lot of good humor and stuff. So, so that's it. That was the big thing that happened this year for me, was the Star Wars movie. That's one of the biggest things that always happens every year, is the Star Wars movie. And coming at Christmas, it's kind of awesome. It's like an early Christmas present, and I highly recommend. And don't believe all the naysayers, because they stupid. Peace.